World War III. That universal, morbid, curious question that everyone has thought about. You just have to take a look at our popular culture to see how movies like The Day After and games like Call of Duty envision these nightmarish possibilities in our world today. But what would this hypothetically look like? What would be the consequences of another world war? And who stands the best chance at winning? Well, let's find out. For most people, the easiest and most obvious image of a hypothetical war today is that of nuclear warfare. Since the Cold War, the number of nuclear weapons has decreased, but some countries still have them and have made their nukes more high-tech and sophisticated. In the world today, there are 9 big players for such a war. The US, Russia, the United Kingdom, France, China, India, Pakistan, Israel, and North Korea. These are the only nuclear-armed countries in the world, with a total of 13,400 nuclear warheads between them. But interesting enough though, it is America and Russia who have been vying for first place, possessing 90% of all the world's nuclear weapons alone between them. Now let's look at the numbers. America has 6,185 total nuclear warheads in comparison to Russia, who has about 6,800 in total. A fairly neck and neck race, but what would it look like if they had some help? Over the years, Russia and China have developed a closer relationship with one another, and it is no secret that China is not America's biggest fan.
China, 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 China.
So it would be likely in an event of a third world war that China would become allied with Russia. With America as the common enemy between them, that would add an estimated 250 nukes that China has to Russia's nuclear arsenal. Although America is ranked #1 in the world for military power, this alliance would tip the balance even further in Russia's favor. And now, let's not forget about North Korea. Although only being ranked 25th in the world for military power and owning a mere 30 to 40 nuclear weapons, North Korea's military reputation is one of the most fearsome and volatile in the world. Due to their rather trigger-happy nature, it is possible that North Korea could act as a catalyst to the start of this hypothetical nuclear war. So if things played out this way, who would win World War III if it was a nuclear war? Well, realistically, no one. If these countries started dropping nukes on each other, chances are, that'd be it. An end of the world type situation. But what if we take nuclear weapons out of the equation? Let's go ahead and take a deeper look at the traditional military strength of some of these candidates. Take 2 age-old military rivals, Britain and France. With only an hour and a half's ferry trip across the English Channel between these two countries, it would be a war very close to home, one relying on naval power and air superiority. As always, the UK and France are neck and neck when it comes down to military power. The UK holding place 8 in the world rankings and France just beating them at place 7. By air and sea, it looks like France would have the upper hand, with 11 destroyers and 9 submarines, in comparison to Britain's 6 destroyers and 10 submarines. It would likely be a tough fight for the UK. But let's go back to the idea of hypothetical allies. Although America has formed a strong relationship with France over the years, their #1 ally since World War I has been the UK. Therefore, it would make sense and be a lot more likely that America would side with their British friends across the pond in a World War III scenario. And if we turn to France, it would be more likely that they would look to their neighbors, that being Germany, for help. In our modern day, the France and German alliance lies at the heart of the European Union, and it is therefore one of the strongest and most important military alliances today. The German military, although being heavily tamed following the atrocities of World War II, still holds a high place in the world rankings, sitting at number 13. If all these Western powers, however, were to form an alliance, this hypothetical war would change drastically, with America's impressive air and naval forces, including one of the biggest destroyers in the world, the DDG-1000 Zumwalt, being roughly 600 feet long and the length of 13 double-decker buses. Needless to say, in this scenario, America and the Western European powers would be a force to be reckoned with. But let's strip it back even further and compare land and manpower, the actual feet that would be on the ground in World War III. Unsurprisingly, China has the largest number of military personnel in comparison to any other country, with just over 2.1 million active personnel and around 500,000 reserves. Sitting just behind China is India, ranked number 4 in the world for military power. In comparison, India has roughly 1.4 million active personnel and a whopping 2.1 million in reserves. Given the ongoing Sino-Indian border dispute over the territory between the two countries, and with reports of China crossing the border into Indian territory uninvited, it is likely that these two countries would be adversaries in a World War III scenario. If all active and reserve personnel from each side fought, there wouldn't be an easy and obvious winner. But take a look at each country's land forces, and we start to get a clearer picture. China has 3,500 tanks and a massive 33,000 armored vehicles, the second largest military collection of AUVs in the world behind America. In comparison, India does have around 4,300 tanks, but only around 8,500 armored vehicles, making this hypothetical World War III in some ways skewed more in the favor of China. But who would be China and India's respective allies in this scenario? The United States would almost certainly come to India's aid against China, not just because of the obvious tensions between America and China, but due to the strength of the military relationship that America has forged with India in the recent years. America's number of active military personnel is pretty much equal to India's, and with the US also sporting around 6,300 tanks and the largest number of armored vehicles in the world, India's chances would improve drastically. But what about Russia? It is difficult to say who Russia would choose to set up camp with, seeing as the country has strong ties with both China and India and considers them both essentially allies. India and Russia have recently been cozying up to each other. Russia has more tanks than any other nation in the world. They also bring around 1 million active military personnel, 2 million reserves, and just over 27,000 armored vehicles to the table. And if Russia and the US were to play nice for India's sake in this World War III scenario, then there would be a fighting chance of defeating the Chinese. But China isn't the only nation going into territories that aren't its own. Take India for example. Their relationship with their hostile neighbor Pakistan has been difficult for the years to say the least. This tension has caused 4 very real wars between the two nations, mostly over the territories of Jammu and Kashmir, which both share borders with Pakistan, India, and China. The relationship between Pakistan and China, on the other hand, is a very different story. The two countries have one of the closest alliances in the world, China even considering Pakistan as its iron brother. India's growing alliance with the Western world has strengthened even more with the bond between the two countries, giving them a common enemy. Pakistan has roughly around 600,000 active military personnel, and pretty much the same amount of reserves as China. So China wouldn't be alone in this World War scenario, as Pakistan would jump at the chance to help their military brother out and defeat India in the process. Take it with a grain of salt, it's all very well comparing the numbers between the countries, but nowadays biggest doesn't always mean the best. What about the actual military skills of the soldiers that make up these armies? What if we consider that one part of the military that is the focus of so many blockbuster movies? The special forces. In our world today, it only takes a handful of the best soldiers who can infiltrate any hostile situation for a war to be lost. And there are several units known exactly for that. Of the ones among these, the most effective units in the world by rank are France's GIGN, America's Navy SEALs, Israel's Sayeret Matkal, Russia's Spetsnaz, and the UK's SAS, which is considered to be the best special forces unit in the world, focusing primarily on special missions such as saving hostages taken deep behind enemy lines. These soldiers have to be incredibly disciplined, have unbelievable mental fortitude, and exceptional physical strength, with pass rates during training being as low as 7%. And it's not unheard of for soldiers to die during the testing process. It can be definitely said that these soldiers are by far the best of the best, undergoing days upon days of intense physical and mental stress in the most demanding conditions, from jungles to deserts to the extremes of alpine environments. These soldiers alone are capable of enduring just about anything. Their understanding and proficiency with a variety of weapons makes them an impressive wildcard for superpowers to play out in the game of war. So in conclusion, who would win World War III? Out of all these scenarios, whether it be nuclear warfare, air and sea, or even by land and manpower, there are definitely a few obvious candidates for first place. In pretty much every area and aspect of the military, it seems to be a neck-and-neck race for the best between America, China, and Russia, as they are the top 3 countries that offer the best armies in the world. They are also the most attractive options for other countries when looking for allies, and the most fearsome adversaries for those who find themselves on the teams fighting against them. Luckily, we're only talking about this in hypothetical terms, and hopefully it will stay that way and 2020 doesn't throw another curveball that ends in World War III. How do you think a nightmare World War III situation would come out to be? And which countries do you think would come out on top? Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it from us here at WatchData. If you did end up enjoying this video, then make sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and the bell to be notified when we upload. And also go ahead and check out some of the other content on our channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.